to Cinemavino. It's good to have you guys here with us. This is officially like our first recording back after a little hiatus with some illness in my family, a random sickness that affected our twins and then got to me. So
defected or infected?
Both. It was gnarly.
Like a Russian spy.
Yeah, it was.
The illness defected back over to his family.
It defected and jumped, and yeah, it was bad. Yeah. But here we are, alive and well. And kicking off our sci-fi series back into gear with one of the all-time classics that I've seen several times in several different versions. We can talk about that here in a minute.
Wait, what did we rewatch? We watched
so far we've done Road Warrior.
Dark World. No, I'm talking about what you did. Some
Dark City was one.
Dark City, and then there was another one. Ones that we had previously done.
That tied into this one. And I just went blank. So there you go.
Cool. Okay. Sick. Cool.
Aliens. We did Aliens.
Alien.
To go with Alien.
We did Alien, and then you
Dark
did
City.
Aliens, and then Dark City. Cool.
Yeah. I thought
didn't we replay the first Star Trek movie or the first Contact?
No, we did.
We didn't.
Dark City.
So we did Aliens to follow Alien, and then I thought Dark City would be a good mixture for Blade Runner and Total Recall.
That's a good pick.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's the Matrix before the Matrix.
Yeah, exactly. So for this installment, we're going to look at Blade Runner, which is based on the Philip K. Dick novel, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And we're drinking, Sean has been very generous and poured us a Louis Jadot Beaujolais Village.
This is from the personal collection.
Yeah, the personal cellar. And
this is grapes from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I grew these in my backyard.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are from the Beaujolais region of France. This is going to be the Gamay grape. Beaujolais Village is going to be
France, Oklahoma.
Exactly. I believe there is a Paris, Oklahoma.
There's Paris, Texas.
There you go. And so yeah, the Village can be pulled from the assorted different villages around Beaujolais to make kind of a cuvee of different Gamay grapes. So
you just made up a whole bunch of words.
I know. That makes me sound so smart.
Nonsense words.
Yeah.
We need more redneck wines.
I like your fancy words, fancy man.
Well, let's do a redneck movie. We'll do
Let's hear sparkling redneck.
I'm gonna tell you,
Joe Dirt.
Exactly. We'll do some Joe Dirt.
Talladega Nights.
Whisker Bobby. Yeah, I'm down.
If I come at you like a spider monkey.
I think we got to do something based with Mountain Dew if we do Talladega Nights.
Hell yeah.
But for Lord of the Rings, I'm going to tell you right now, we're doing ale and pints. It comes in pints. Yeah. So
it comes in pints?
We're doing some tankards.
I'm getting one.
So Blade Runner came out in 1982, June 25th, 1982. Roughly 3 weeks after Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. This is a good summer for sci-fi.
It's a good summer for
because when you think about 82, you had this, you had E.T., you had Poltergeist. You had some good stuff coming out in 82.
I still think 84 is like my peak movie year.
You mean that year you had Ghostbusters, Temple of Doom. That was your Dune. That was the original Dune.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. David Lynch.
Yeah. So there's
R.I.P.
some good stuff. Yeah.
Tasty flicks.
Tasty.
I will say that was the one part of Fabelmans I really enjoyed was David Lynch's cameo as John Ford.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And who bore strong resemblance.
Well, so there have been a lot of David Lynch stories coming out, since his passing. And
what?
You know what he requested as his payment for that movie?
What's that?
Big old bowl of Cheetos. He just wanted a big old bowl of Cheetos. He's like, I love Cheetos because you just want to eat just nonstop, one after another, and then you run out. So you need a lot of them.
So true. It's so true.
It's like, all right, David Lynch.
And not for nothing, but one of ODB, one of his aliases as a rapper was Big Box of Chili.
Ooh.
There's that.
David Lynch just sounds cool.
Big box of chili.
He just liked going to diners. He liked coffee.
That man loved coffee and cigarettes.
He liked a good big boy chocolate milkshake combined with a cup of coffee.
So
I don't know why it's taking us this long to talk about David Lynch, but I've been on a big Twin Peaks rewatch. So I've been on a tear. I was actually mid rewatch when he died. So it was fortuitous that, everyone has started talking about Twin Peaks again.
Yeah.
Not that it's fortuitous that he died, but it's been nice. Having him back in the zeitgeist so heavily.
Nice to give the man his due.
Yeah. Nice to give the man his due.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
So Blade Runner.
Rip.
Grossed approximately $42 million against a $30 million budget. which was a big budget for that time period. You think about it.
$42 million against a
$30
million budget.
Think about it.
Ridley Scott. This is
Ridley Scott.
What, 4 years after Alien?
3, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 79 to 82.
So to put that in perspective, this had a $30 million budget. Wrath of Khan had a $12 million budget. Let you know where we are. Terminator, which came out in 84, I believe, had roughly an
84, you say?
Yeah, another 84 movie. Came out in 84. It had roughly, I think, an $8 million budget. So here you're looking at 30.
Jesus.
So this to put in perspective of what a massive budget this was for that time period.
Was that Harrison Ford off of, some Star Wars flicks?
I believe this was
after that, 80s and Return of the Jedi was 83.
When was Indiana Jones?
Oh yeah, Return of the Jedi was 83, right?
It was a year after this.
And this was 82?
82.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck.
It's in between. The I think a lot of this
Fire's 80
was
Yeah.
A lot of your budget here is going to be the fact that the studio stepped in, and we'll get to that here in a second, and was not pleased with the original cut that Ridley Scott showed them. So you had some reshoots, some edit, and some voiceover added later. And anytime you go back into a movie and do production afterwards,
it costs you a lot of money.
It's you're off the schedule at that point, and so you have to start bringing people back in and pay everybody more money to go in and work. Not so much overtime, but you're paying them a whole new.
Yeah,
you're starting off a whole new schedule. So that's what you were looking at here. This had a very troubled production, top to bottom. Basically, the studio did not enjoy what they saw. They decided that it did not make sense the way they didn't follow it, and they didn't understand the concepts of it. So the studio, without Ridley Scott's permission, went in and edited the film pretty heavily, and to where they thought it would make more sense. And then they brought in Harrison Ford.
The fuck they did.
Harrison Ford, very much against his will, came in and recorded voiceover narration for the movie, for the character of Rick Deckard.
Was that the theatrical cut that had the narration?
That was a theatrical cut. That's the first version that I saw, that I rented as a kid on VHS. I did not like that version of Blade Runner at all, because I hated his narration, because even as a kid, I thought this is such a cool visual movie. It has such cool special effects, such cool, the big, kind of Tokyo style billboards of advertisements. It's such a cool looking movie. His voiceover narration kills the movie. It's a good example of how you can kill a movie with narration, of him spoon feeding what's going on in the story.
I think that was the first version I saw.
I could not stand that version of it.
Yeah.
That version of it to me was a 5. Of it, it was like to me it was like it made the movie feel slower.
It's spoon feedy. It is slower. The pace is slower. It just kind of tells you everything that's happening at the time.
Because I remember thinking Ridley Scott does such a good job of showing you.
Yeah.
And then the studio steps in. No, you need to tell him. Don't show him.
Did he do anything between Alien and this?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I don't believe he did anything. But we can look up and verify that. But yeah, I was not impressed with that version of it. And so years later, I believe in college, I got to watch the director's cut. And that was a whole different movie without the voiceover, because it was you actually get to focus on what's going on the screen.
That's what I watched for this.
And then, there's a difference between the director's cut, which didn't have any of what?
Keep going.
Oh yeah, which didn't have any of Ridley Scott in it. And then there's the final cut, which Ridley Scott got to come back in and
I just had to confirm that's the Blu-ray I have, is the final
cut. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's the one I watched too.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it's crazy because it's it reminds me of Orson Welles. And supposedly, the studio gave him full cut, basically full final cut on Citizen Kane. And then he never got it again on any of his other movies. All of his other movies were edited without his permission to some degree. Citizen Kane is the one Orson Welles movie that you're watching what he wants you to see.
Is there any other director where that happened? Where they just edited the fuck out of their movies all the time?
Not every single movie. Almost every director has dealt with that to some degree.
Yeah.
And Ridley Scott's a good example of this happening.
Did this not have a main menu? Did it just start playing? I didn't have a main menu. I
think it might have started just playing from.
Yeah, I think it just started, and it had different commentaries.
But there's a
for some reason
menu.
I think
you can do a pop-up menu.
Well, yeah, I did a pop-up, but it wouldn't let me go to the main menu. And then apparently, for some reason, I thought this had multiple versions that you could watch.
I think it has,
but it's not.
It's version on there.
Yeah,
it does. Yeah, I don't see it.
I believe it does.
Not that you want to watch
this one.
because I own
It doesn't
this
say
movie.
it does.
Do we all own this movie?
I own that movie, but it was also included with whatever Amazon subscription I have. So it was on Amazon Video for me.
Yeah, it was.
This, I don't think has.
It was kind of off and on streaming. Do you own this movie?
Yeah, I have that same one.
So we all it's kind of rare that we all own a Blu-ray.
Yeah. And then that one came out in 2017.
And the exact
Blu-ray
cut
came out
of the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
So also behind the scenes, Harrison Ford and Ridley Scott did not get along. They fought throughout the movie. In fact, Ridley Scott was later asked which actor that he fought with the most, and he said Harrison Ford during Blade Runner. They made up years later and came to an understanding and became kind of friendly enough that Ford was agreeable to be in the sequel. But for a long time, they both in the interview said that they did not get along and didn't much care for each
The
other.
sequel is like 30 years later.
Yeah.
Like, of course he fucking chilled out by then.
Yeah, I think that they both had melted.
The sequel hasn't even come out. It comes out in 2049.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right.
But over time, this became a cult hit.
What year was this based in?
2019.
20. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the first one was 2019. And so
It's come and gone.
That's right, because they all had 4-year lifespans. And that's, they're like, what's my birth date? 2016, 2017. Okay.
So this,
Fucking wish.
yeah. So this film has very, very influential. I mean, I don't know how much you guys caught that watching this time. It's like, looking at like Total Recall or like The Fifth Element or Demolition Man, some of the movies that we've gone back and Judge Dredd, you know.
Yeah, Judge Dredd a lot. Even
The Mandalorian has some definite Blade Runner influence to it. I mean, Back to the Future 2. I mean, tons of movies that even the Cybertruck was based on the vehicles in this movie. You know, I guess the design of the Cybertruck was based on
probably better choices could have been made.
Exactly, much better choices. Yeah, but yeah, it's like that's the thing that I really got watching it this time because I hadn't seen it in many years. But it was like this. Obviously, is a very, very influential movie. But anyway, we'll get back to my thoughts on it because I've seen it quite a few times, but now it's like this is the first time I've gone back and watched whatever this version is that he wants everybody to see.
Final cut.
Yeah. The basic story for the people out there who haven't seen it is set in 2019, which in 1982 represents the distant future. A new race of synthetic beings who are called replicants have been created, but now they are kind of
outlawed.
Yeah. They're persona non grata. I don't know what the phrase would be for artificial people, but they're not allowed on Earth anymore. And so now you got some rogue replicants who have crash landed on Earth, and you have an elite squad of cops called Blade Runners who are tasked with retiring these creatures. Harrison Ford is supposed to be, as Rick Deckard, one of the best at hunting down these Blade Runners and hunting down these replicants. And so one of the ways that they do it is they use, I guess, what you'd call an empathy test to test how they react to empathetic situations of I forget what questions they were a puppy's in trouble. What would you do or whatever? And then they test the responses.
Hey,
tell me about your mother.
You're walking through a forest. You see an ant upside down. What do you do?
Yeah.
It's like,
squash that fucking ant.
Yeah.
And so it reminds you also a little bit of the Battlestar Galactica reboot where you have the Cylons.
Yeah.
Who they
Fracking Cylon.
Fracking Cylon.
The fracking ship.
They mix in perfectly, but then there are little subtle ways to draw them out or to expose them to.
Well, replicants were basically at this point a kind of a slave race.
Yeah, they have
they can't be on Earth anymore.
They can't be on Earth, but they can be on all the other planets. You got your sex worker replicants, you got your military replicants, you got your worker replicants,
You got your assassin.
Yeah, badass.
Yeah,
you can just put them out in the vacuum of space, apparently, and they'll just they can lift 400 atomic weight or whatever new
they have strength similar to Khan's.
Yeah,
and so over time, Deckard's thoughts on his mission. It reminded me a little bit of Apocalypse Now too, where it's he gets that one last mission, and after it was over, I never want another one. And so he's tasked with wiping these last few replicants out. It gets complicated when he meets Sean Young's character, Rachel, who is unaware of her status of a replicant and her implanted memories. And then once she becomes aware of it, there's a vulnerability. There's a humanity to her that awakens his humanity, and he kind of begins to question things and question his obviously very callous very asshole superiors. And
that he starts to question that black and white worldview of replicants bad, humans good.
Yeah. And there's parallels throughout humanity of like anytime you have like, a slave class or any, like I thought about like Native Americans getting displaced or whatever. It's like, you have to put them in the category of not being human.
Yeah.
So they're easily disposed of because they're not like us. And so, that's very much the last reel of this movie is Harrison Ford coming to terms like, we were wrong about everything. The whole time. Sean Young's character helps him start to come to terms with that. And then the Rutger Hauer's final sequence in the movie where he like discovers truly his humanity in the last few minutes of the film, which is a remarkable sequence where he suddenly realizes I don't have much time left. He confronts his mortality. And it's like that brief burst of like so much of humanity and our poetry and our philosophy and our religion and everything are tied to the end of our life.
And memories.
Yeah. It's like everything is tied to the fact that we end. And so he comes to terms with that. And like he becomes poetic and philosophical about it, about his own existence. And he realized, I don't want to spend the last minutes of my life killing somebody.
Just to speed run humanity.
Yeah. Right there on the spot.
Yeah.
And so he realized everything I've ever amounted to in my life is about to go away like tears and rain. And
which was an original Rutger Hauer line. Mm-hmm. At least that portion of it was.
Yeah. And which is interesting because it's like he shows that like, they're not real, they're not human, they're synthetic. And like he at that point he grasps his mortality in terms of metaphor. He grasps
what is humanity?
Yeah.
What is it to be human?
Yeah.
What is existence?
It starts saying like, I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. And you're like, you people?
First of all.
And Harrison interrupts his whole monologue and it's like, what do you mean you
What do you mean you people?
Like
except his hair is at 40. What do you mean you people?
What do you mean you people? And so one of the co-writers of this is a guy named David Peoples who would later write Unforgiven.
What do you mean, David Peoples?
What do you mean, David Peoples? And so we watched Unforgiven for our Best Picture series, and it's like there's a similar monologue in that where Clint Eastwood is like, when you kill a guy, you take away everything he is and everything he's ever going to be. And that's kind of this speech of like, I've seen things and done things, and now those things are all going to be washed away. So it's a great scene. It's a very heady, very.
You mentioned Cylons. There is one other connection to Battlestar Galactica in here. Edward James Olmos.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can't believe
he's the cop that is
so different in this film.
Yeah, and he's
so young and skinny, and
it seems like he is not a replicant, but he might have like bionic eyes or something. Mm-hmm. I wondered, and this was the first time I was thinking about this, is that I first saw this movie in film school and I was like, oh, Blade Runner. And then I heard, okay, this guy is a guy that retires replicants. And I was like, this is going to be badass.
And they have to put
this is like an action film where he's just going to be chasing down androids and blowing them away. I was like, awesome.
Yeah.
It was not at all what I thought it was going to be.
Did you see
and I didn't
director's cut or the original?
I saw the original because I saw this in 2001, 2.
So you could have seen the director's cut because it came out in the 90s.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I had the narration or not, but
that's the key.
Either way, I didn't really super love it when I saw it. I was like
2007.
I was like, man, the Blade Runner is not as awesome as I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. But it had, as soon as I saw it, oh shit, I've lost my thread. You fucking interrupt me.
What is this movie?
But when I saw it, I eventually went back and I mean it's a neo-noir film, but also with cyberpunk. So it's noir and cyberpunk, and it's peanut butter and jelly. It's two great tastes that taste great together. Once I knew what the film was, when I watched it again, I enjoyed it a lot more. The miniatures, the little, the Mayan pyramid looking, background that they had for what was it? Voight Phillips or whatever.
Yeah. The name of the
Voight Industries.
It just, I mean, I watch YouTube channels just for like the ambiance in the background, and I'll watch one of those that's Blade Runner inspired with the background and the Vangelis soundtrack or score in the background. It's just very soothing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, the electronica, like
it's a weird mixture of real and fake.
Well, it's synth and it's electronic, and normally when you think of electronic scores, especially like in the 80s, you think it's going to be like all fast and poppy, but this was more like moody and just kind of airy, I guess. It was just
ambient. Yeah.
It was more subtle, more like subtext, kind of in the background. But I like the longer scenes where you get to see the cityscapes, and you get to see, they really enjoy seeing the lens flare of all of like the headlights on the flying cars.
So cool.
It was. I like a movie that takes its time. And this took its time to like let you seep in.
Brother, let me tell you about David Lynch.
Yeah. But it made me want to go back and watch the one with the narration, because whenever you watch like a noir kind of detective thing, it's like the dame walked in, she had legs for days.
Well, and I think
I had attention for
that's
days.
why the studio wanted to edit it that way. Is they wanted to make it like heavy into the noir of like, we need to really tell them what's going on, and we need Harrison Ford's gruff voice, like giving us that VO.
Well, I liked all the silence. I enjoyed the silence in the film, and if I can, that they let the film breathe. They let the film take a breath between scenes, and that they show and don't tell. But I do want to like watch them kind of back to back and see what points they sprinkle in the narrative, and if I can remember that it adds anything at all.
Supposedly the reason why was because they went to Ridley Scott and whoever executives, they're like, we don't understand this. What is going on in this movie? They said, we need to put some stuff. And supposedly
I'll be honest, I don't follow.
Supposedly, like, it was written by not the screenwriters. It was written by other people. And then they had Harrison Ford, and Harrison Ford was so mad. And it was one of those deals where it's like, kind of like, what you're saying about David Bowie, about how he got beat up one time and it made him look cooler.
And Jason Momoa, he got in a bar fight, got cut above the eye, and then he had this cool looking eyebrow.
Yeah.
Is that how he got the eyebrow cut?
Yeah.
I thought it was just like the bisexual like eyebrow like shave.
No, he got into a bar fight. He got smashed by a bottle and then become.
Damn.
Yeah, he got smashed by a bottle and became
cool
hotter.
As fuck. That's rad as fuck.
David Bowie got punched in the face by a friend because a girl liked him instead of his friend, and then he had that cool like weird dilated pupil.
His weird
that
like
shows up in all of his photos. And he was like, "Hey, I'm just David Bowie getting punched in the face, getting hotter."
Damn.
I mean, here's my space rock music with my weird eyes.
Yeah.
I think that like Harrison Ford being so like annoyed in this movie and fighting with the director actually helped his character, because it was like, it fits his character to be grouchy and pissed off
with authority.
Yeah. It's
a big old leather duster.
Then being disillusioned, it suited him.
I remember what I was going to say earlier. This was the first time I watched it where I was thinking of Edward James Olmos's character that keeps leaving the little origami,
little paper
characters around.
No.
And his eyes glow, but differently. And I wonder if he's kind of like, this is just purely me thinking about it this watch. If there was something wrong with his eyes and he was blind, but he got these like bionic deals, and he has a sight that is beyond, normal sight, and he's busting out the little origami things everywhere, because we have Harrison Ford seeing, that has, and I think it's only in the final cut, or it might be in the director's cut, but they show the unicorn, him dreaming about the unicorn. And he didn't say or mention anything about a unicorn to anybody. And homeboy leaves a unicorn at the end there. So he's either somewhat prophetic or has vision or knows hey, this is your totem animal or whatever.
Yeah.
Or Harrison Ford has, Sean Young says, "Have you ever taken this test yourself?" And they just kind of ... and then just go on. And he's like, "Oh, wait." You see the unicorn at the end. You're like, "Well, shit. Is that a manufactured memory?
No.
Is that maybe all Blade Runners have unicorn memories maybe or something?" They're like, what's the best creature or something to go after a replicant? Well, a replicant that thinks like them would know how to go after them. But he doesn't show any like superhuman strength or anything like that.
No.
But maybe that's to better blend in.
He could be the new model.
Yeah. Well, and that's the theme they kind of explore with the later on sequel, the Blade Runner 2049, is the idea of, are you a human or are you not?
That's why it's so shitty that they made a sequel. Like the greatest thing was that it was a standalone. And again, much like the ... at the end of Total Recall, you get to make your own reality. You get to finish it. But like they make a sequel and then they answer the question.
Yeah. They put pen to paper on like what the actual question is to the open-ended answer. Yeah.
So we talked about this a little bit during Total Recall, but in the book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Animals are very scarce or near or at extinction. So if you have an animal or an artificial animal,
or an owl,
it is a symbol of status. And in the book, I think somebody's like, "Oh, goat, I have a goat," and it's a real goat. And they just keep it on like the rooftop of their place and like go and feed it or whatever. It's a status symbol. You're like, "God, I have a goat. Wait, oh my God, this other person, you have a goat? What if we bred our goats and they had a baby goat?" Like that's where all the money is.
Yeah.
So that's why you see an abundance of animals everywhere in this film, and they don't really mention it except for the artificial owl. And they're like, "Yes, that's very expensive," but they don't mention it other than that.
Yeah.
It was a bigger part of the books than it was any of the films.
Interesting. So what would you give this movie? The final cut.
I still wish it had more, but that's just me wanting, just hearing the premise and wanting more crazy action. But I'll give this a solid 8. Roy Batty, Rutger Hauer, this is probably his best film.
I think Oscar.
If I can think of it. Yeah. And like he took such a, I don't want to say a nothing role, but just his last monologue elevated everything that came before. So that as I rewatched it, like I knew what was coming and I enjoyed that character even more.
It elevated the whole movie.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I loved all of the sets too. The cars and the stuff. And then clearly, and the advertising, all the Zeppelins up there. I don't know what the Asian woman was eating, but I would pay for it.
I would eat it.
I want it.
I want that.
I want a Coke. I want Coca-Cola.
Yeah, that was perfect product placement.
As Taylor would say, I want that.
I want that. But just having the super crowded streets of him, like a megalopolis that is far too overcrowded, and then juxtaposed with J.F. Sebastian's house that seems like it's further outside the city and there is nobody around. He's like, "Yeah, there's no housing crisis. There's plenty of room for everybody way out here." Also, okay, I can't finish this without giving a shout out to the Batman the Animated Series, where the actor that played J.F. Sebastian did the voice of the guy that created duplicants.
You mean
not
Discount
replicants?
Christopher Lloyd?
Yes. I can't remember the actor's name, but yeah, he did 3 episodes of Batman. He was in Hearts of Steel Parts 1 and 2, and his Silicon Soul. You got to watch those Batman episodes. They're lovely. So it's a solid 8 for me.
Sean?
I mean, I think as a sci-fi movie, it is one of the best existential themes to explore. And I think this is what Philip K. Dick did really well, was explore a lot of those weird ideas. Like I said I will say in future podcasts rather, is between him and Asimov, this was peak sci-fi existential idea exploration. Like this was the era of they just looked at everything through a different lens than everybody else. And I think they wrote about ideas that were really cool and just like really funky ideas to explore from a sci-fi lens of like, what does this mean as us, as humanity? What does that mean for us as people? What are people? What does humanity look like if we can create these robotic images similar to humanity? And I think that is a theme that we are exploring a lot today as we go through obviously the AI revolution. But this movie does such a good job of exploring those themes off of what Philip K. Dick wrote about. The cinematography is great, obviously. Like it looks beautiful. This movie it's beautifully ugly. You kind of get it's sort of like Alien. So like 3 years later, you see Ridley Scott doing a lot of the same stuff of this is like an ugly idea of the future. It's not.
No, Ridley Scott did 79.
Yeah. Yeah. He did Alien.
James Cameron, because this was 82.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alien, so James Cameron was 86. Yeah.
Yeah.
Aliens.
Yeah. So he did Alien in 79 and then he did this in 82.
Yeah.
And in my review, it's funny because I wrote that it's a beautiful nightmare that Ridley Scott delivers in this movie. Like it's
not a pretty view of the future.
It's an attractive nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think of the phrase I use is like this. It's a beautiful nightmare, bathed in dirty rainwater and neon.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what would be like a good comp for this of like what we're putting out today of like a sci-fi movie that comes out today, but I don't think there is a good comp for it because like the early 80s, late 70s was kind of like the disillusioned view of where we came off of like the late 60s, where the late 60s were like, okay, we're going to space. This is the final frontier. We're doing the Star Trek thing. We're going to go and we're going to explore and we're going to be the humanity that's going to like go out and see the world. And in the 70s and 80s was like, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
We are a terrible people.
You had Watergate. You had
hospital
crisis. You had fuel shortages. You had
you're going into like the Richard Nixon era. You're going into like,
or even like the Ronald Reagan era, which for whatever it was worth, didn't inspire a lot of like optimism of like oh wow, we're gonna reach the stars.
Yeah,
a lot of movies like the movies of this time period, there wasn't like a corporate villainy to them, like Aliens, Blade Runner, RoboCop. There was a lot of like evil corporations.
Yeah, exactly. And I think sci-fi is always a really good lens to go back and watch what sci-fi movies are getting put out in different eras to kind of look at what is the lens through which we're examining society. And, like I said, Philip K. Dick and Asimov in the 60s and 40s and 50s were doing a lot of stuff comparing the Red Scare and looking through like what is, computing? What does computing look like 50 years from now? They thought we were going to be doing some crazy stuff. It's just Blade Runner is a view of the future that was more dismal and a little more dingy and dirty.
Yeah.
And I think Ridley Scott does a really good job of capturing that.
Yeah.
Based off of the view that he had for the future.
And I believe Philip K. Dick screened a rough cut of this and gave it his approval of like, you guys did a good job of capturing what I was
like, hell yeah, you guys nailed this.
Yeah. For me, like I would give this a 10. I really would.
I give it like an 8 because it dawdles at times and the pacing is kind of bad.
Yeah.
But like you said, it really ties together with that last monologue. Where it just really comes together at the end and just really ties together the theme of the movie.
Yeah.
Without that, like that guy's entire acting throughout the entire movie is pretty non-consequential. And then he comes together with like this banger of a monologue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Best actor.
Yeah.
Or best supporting actor.
Yeah.
You think that your protagonist is going to like win and save the day and everything? No. Homeboy gets his fingers broken, and then he tries to get away.
Yeah, he almost dies, and then the other guy saves him.
Yeah, he jumps to another building. He's like, "Oh God, I'm not gonna make it," and then he's about to fall, and the bad guy saves him, gives a monologue, and then dies. And you're like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, he just dies.
And you see that on Harrison Ford's face. You're like, "Hold on." This guy was super pissed. I had just killed his girlfriend. He was going to kill me.
Also, what a dream, fucking nightmare house. The clowns and the dolls everywhere.
Yeah.
What a nightmare house to live in.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Being that fucking person that has like a doll house? No, pass.
Yeah.
With like the weird colonel and the monkey that come and like greet you at the door.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so well filmed and well staged too. It's like
Christ, that is a nightmare house.
So spooky.
Settings are great.
Yeah.
Also, tons of rain in this movie.
So
good
much
weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Dark, where like it's just raining the entire time for no reason.
Yeah.
But you honestly get a lot of that in Alien, where it's like they go down the planet, it's very like humid and like it feels like it just like rained.
It's damp.
But even on the ship, there's a lot of like
somebody's mouth.
You feel like the ship is leaking water everywhere, and there's a sequence where it's like I think it's Harry Dean Stanton like just stands there in the like dripping, pouring water.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, it's like again, this feels like a very damp, rainy experience. That's the movie is the same way. It feels like it's raining in every scene.
That scene was improv, by the way, in Alien.
Of Harry Dean Stanton.
Yeah.
He's such a good actor. R.I.P.
R.I.P.
But yeah, this is a 10. I'm watching it now. It's grown every time I've seen it. The first time I watched it, I didn't like Ford's narration. He didn't want to do it, and it comes across that he didn't want to do it to me. He was pissed off to be there. And so it kind of killed the vibe of the movie. And then I watched it later and I was like, this is probably 7 or an 8. I really like this. And then you cut to later, like watching it now, it's like, you know, hearing that monologue and the poetry of it. It's like, this is great sci-fi.
It's really good sci-fi.
You know, it's
that's true. It's a sci-fi 10.
Yeah. It's thought provoking. It stays with you. You know, it's like, it's a milestone and it influenced so many different movies.
I steal from the best.
Yeah. So many different movies have tried to be Blade Runner and not made it there. So this is a benchmark movie to me. This is a 10. So I like Vangelis, you know, the weirdo Greek composer who did the music. This was kind of his peak. He did, I want to say, Chariots of Fire, and maybe was it Labyrinth? He did another movie in there somewhere.
Oh, well.
Remember? No, that
was
Legend. I think he maybe did Legend.
What he did? Well, I think so.
We'll have to verify.
And then there was a different version that used Orange Dream. Tangerine Dream.
Yeah. But I believe Vangelis recently passed away in the last couple of years.
He also did part of 2049. He did one portion of the score, or they reused from Blade Runner.
Very talented, very eccentric composer.
Because obviously the 2049, the trailer definitely used all of Vangelis on there.
Did 2049 come out in 2019?
2017, I think.
It would have been really cool for them to release in 2019, which would have been the movie, the year that it came out, or the year that it was set in.
And apparently Harrison Ford had a much better time making this movie. He has said in interviews he enjoyed it much more and got along with the director and Denis Villeneuve.
Denis Villeneuve.
And got along with Ryan Gosling a lot better. So it was
nice guy.
Yeah. And I think that comes across in the movie too. It feels like a more pleasant experience. So even though I think Harrison Ford's grouchiness helped the first movie, it helped the vibe. You know, that sort of angry film noir character who is like pissed off and worn out.
He's mad that he's there.
Yeah. It helped the movie.
Well, his grouchiness gets overshadowed by Hugh Grant's grouchiness.
It does.
Who is, you know, lets that pour over into his personal.
The frumpiest of all.
It's a different kind of grouchiness.
Yeah.
But to me, this
Frumpy.
This Blade Runner is a 10. I'd give it a 10. I think it's a great sci-fi movie, and I look forward to going back and I will watch it again.
Fucking nerd.
I am a sucker for it. But yeah, it's been another episode of Cinemavino. We got Jadot Beaujolais Village. A great, fairly straightforward, easy drinking red, 100% Gamay. Check it out. It's going to be less than $20 at any wine store near you.
Yeah, it says like a $17 bottle.
Yeah.
Maybe
like
maybe more with this, political
in this economy. Yeah,
in this economy,
in this upcoming economy. So enjoy it while you can. But yeah, tune in next time. We're going to talk about Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. So we got Travis Budd.
Hey.
John Jordan.
Hi.
My name's Todd Wofford. Next time you'll have Taylor Owens because, yeah, we're recording all out of order. So enjoy what you got. And
Taylor sucks.
That guy fucking sucks.
He's not great, but, you know.
God, that guy fucking sucks.
We work with what we've got.
But he smells amazing.
Sandalwood.
Can't quit him.
We'll see you guys next time.
I'd eat his ass.
Bye.
Great movies, only drunker.